For our March PD session. Our focus today is primarily going to be on the power of partnerships with Intact, but we do have a couple of other things that we need to cover prior to their presentation. So just as a reminder on the next slide, this is just the Office of Federal Programs 21st Century Community Learning Centers team. By now, you all should be familiar with everybody. We do have one new person that is on the list there, and that is Dr. James Pop, who is now an assistant director in our division. So just wanted to make you aware of that, and that he is going to be connected to 21st Century as well. So just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And everybody else on the slide you should be familiar with. Just always know that they are always here to answer questions for you. If you need anything, please do not hesitate to reach out. So just a couple of housekeeping items. Just please make sure that you stay on mute during the presentation. If you have a question, if you want to drop that in the chat, that is fine. And then at the end, if there is time for questions, we can allow you to come off of mute and ask those questions at that time, unless during Intact's presentation, they're asking you to come off mute. If you would also, please make sure that you maintain that etiquette at that time as well. They will give you directions as to when they would like for you to come off of mute as well, or put things in the chat. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and put your first name and last name and your organization's name in the chat so we can capture who is in attendance today. And as always, this recording will be included in the weekly listserv for you. So today's agenda, we do have a few 21st century updates and reminders. Then we're going to allow Kathleen Mooney from the Serve Center to provide you with some information on instructional staff surveys. It's that time of year again. And then we will wrap things up with Intact. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kendall, who is the lead for our PD committee, and he's going to walk you through some updates and reminders.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, 21st Century team and our friends that are joining us. We just have a few updates this morning at this point in the year. So 21st Century program update for second installment. So by now, many programs have submitted for their second installment. Reminder, this does require 50% of your enrollment goal, and students have met 45 hours of participation. The deadline to submit this form is April 17th, but as soon as you meet this metric, you can submit it in CCIP for your program administrator to review. Regarding third installment, this is also due April 17th as the final deadline, but this will require 75% of your enrollment goal, with students participating 90 plus hours. If you have not met your ADA of 70%, the required 70%, your program administrator will or should now have reached out for a technical assistance meeting to discuss ways to improve that daily attendance. May I advance the next slide, please? Thank you. When uploading your program attendance forms, which are located in CCIP under related documents, you'll find the template for the second and third installment. Please upload this as a standalone document. So you don't want to combine them with any other documents. You want to make sure that this is the document in itself so that we can see it clearly and review for approval. If you need to submit anything else in CCIP during that time, such as contracts or budget amendments, we do ask that you hold off and prioritize submitting the program attendance forms first, and then we can review it and approve in a second revision in CCIP. But please upload this, make sure this is the priority. Also go ahead and email your program administrator, letting them know it's in there, and we'll go ahead and get that approved so we can make a timely submission to our allotment log. Susan, I'll pass it back to you for a supplemental award update.
Okay, so by now, many of you should have already seen updates in our listserv about supplemental awards that were pushed out to our cohort 17s. These were funds that were not allocated and were set to expire, and we wanted to make sure that we are utilizing all of these funds. And so if you received a supplemental award amount, we ask that you please wait to submit your budget amendment 209 to include the new amounts. We ask that you wait until we give you a message in the listserv. Hopefully that will be this Friday, as we are trying to get allocations updated in CCIP first, so that when you do submit your 209, you can also update the budget section in CCIP, because all of that needs to match. Then we will also be issuing you a new GAN that has the supplemental award amount in there as well. So please make sure that you hold off on that. If you have already submitted the 209 with that new amount, your fiscal monitor is going to return that to you if they have not already done so. This is to make sure that everything is in alignment. Again, you would have the budget section in CCIP, and your 209 would need to match before you're able to upload those documents into the system. So if you have any questions about the supplemental awards, please make sure you reach out to your fiscal monitor. And there's a link for the 209 within the slide if you need access to that.
Perfect.
The
Thank you,
last
Susan.
thing, and Kendall, I'll take this one too, because this one is one that I really wanted to stress importance to subgrantees. This deadline is quickly approaching, and we only have about 5 programs that have submitted their summer documentation. So we really want to make sure that those funds start flowing for you for summer programming. Our goal is to get those pushed out, as we've stated, in April. And if you are not submitting these documents timely, there is no way that those funds are going to be pushed out timely on our side. So we do ask that you make sure that you are working on your summer documents so that you can receive that summer installment. A lot of funds that we're talking about today. So make sure that you're prioritizing those things. Second installment, we have 17 programs left that have not submitted for second. At this point in the year, we're hoping that many of you that have not submitted are going to be able to submit this week, because we do have an allotment log that will be processed this Friday. So if you don't make it on the log this week, it's going to be 2 additional weeks before we send another log. So just want to remind you about that. And those dates for the allotment log are included in every weekly listserv. So we're trying to make sure that you're fully aware of when we're sending these logs, so that you can make sure that you're able to get your information in to us. So for summer, it's also important, not just second installment, but you really need to be thinking about that summer installment as well. Everything that you need to update is listed here on this slide, and it's been in the listserv for several weeks. So just please make note that these are all due by March the 16th. Okay. Kendall, I'll turn it back over to you.
All righty. Thank you. Just quick reminders. Remember to keep your 21st DC, 21 DC attendance current. So we do ask that you keep that updated. Whatever your, whatever your upload plan is, adhere to that, but you don't want to get backed up on attendance. So just keep it up to date as best as possible. Remember to update your basic program information sheet when staffing changes. Be sure to wait until all contracts are reviewed and approved before services commence. Stay in contact with your program administrator and fiscal monitor regarding all programmatic and fiscal matters. And just to piggyback off the contracts or services, I also want to add volunteers to that. So as you think about going into summer programming or adding additional volunteers or new staff members, please make sure that they have a full and clear background check before working with students. And all of this is in the listserv, so please make sure program directors or key staff are on that listserv receiving those weekly updates. Also, sessions such as this, our professional development sessions, just as a reminder, they are required. So please have someone representative of your program attending these PD meetings to get the information. Go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. At this point, we will turn it over to our friend from SERV, Kathleen Mooney, who will talk about instructional staff surveys today.
Great. And I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you guys can see. Let's see. Can you guys see that on your end?
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kendall. As Susan said, it's almost spring, so that means it's time to start thinking about planning for the dissemination of your instructional staff surveys. Thus, I just want to take a few minutes today to kind of provide an overview of the current guidance regarding the surveys. However, before we begin, I just want to let everyone know that there hasn't been any changes at the federal or state level for this required data collection activity this year. So that is great news, which means this may be new information for all the cohort 18 subgrantees, but for those cohort 17 subgrantees, this will be a review of information that was provided last year. So more specifically, I'll go over the who, what, where, when, and hows of the instructional staff survey, and then I'll share a few resources that may be helpful to you and your team. So to set the stage, the first question is why? Why are subgrantees required to collect instructional staff survey data? This is a requirement because it's part of a federal student outcome reporting requirement. More specifically, all states receiving 21st century funding must collect data on students participating in 21st CCLC programming and track instructor reported improvements in students' level of engagement and learning. This requirement is part of the federal GEPRA Act, and student level data informs the national annual performance reporting called 21 APR. So in addition, this is also a requirement at the state level because it aligns with the statewide goals established by NCDPI. It's included in NCDPI's grant guidance because it helps to ensure that North Carolina is in compliance with federal requirements. And it also provides data regarding the extent to which subgrantees across the state are making progress towards meeting student academic progress. But collecting feedback from regular school day teachers should not just be done to be in compliance with the state and federal requirements. Instead, really think of this, this process as a best practice that opens up lines of communication with your participants' teachers. This will result in data that your team can use to help reflect and plan and continuously improve your 21st century programming. Next, we'll look at the who. Who's required to administer the instructional staff survey? That will be all 21st CCLC subgrantees that are currently funded, and it will be for participants across all grade levels. More specifically, subgrantees should contact the school day classroom instructor of every student that attends the 21st CCLC program. This includes students attending the school year programming and students attending your summer 2026 programming. So please note that if collecting a response from the teacher or from the student's school day classroom instructor, if it's not possible to gather data from the school day classroom instructor, such as in summer, of course, they're not going to be within, in the regular school day in most cases, unless they're in a district level summer programming. But if you're unable to reach out to or contact or follow up with a school day classroom instructor, you can disseminate this survey to a student support team member that is familiar with the student's level of progress over the past year and or summer. That could be a social worker, a school psychologist, a counselor, a teacher's aide, and it could even be one of the 21 CCLC after school program staff members. So it's just, however, we do want to stress that it's very important to first try to make contact and build those lines of communication with the regular school day teacher, and to ensure that they're the first one you approach in order to complete the survey. So the next question we get is when? When should the instructional staff surveys be distributed? Of course, every program is unique. However, in general, it's most common to distribute the surveys as close to the end of your programming as possible. in order to capture the students' growth over the entire course of either the school year or the entire course of the summer programming. However, please take into consideration the testing calendar. It's suggested that subgrantees work with the principal of the schools to identify what time frame works best, especially considering the end of grade testing, because in many cases, schools prefer that this be done before the EOGs or the EOCs and before all the testing begins. And also take good care, make sure that you have crafted the communications to the teachers and or instructors in a way that's very clear to them about what their role will be. Instruction should include kind of the purpose of the data collection, directions for how to complete and return the surveys, and a contact name or number for the program if there are any questions. Also make sure that you have planned adequate time for your team to disseminate the survey, for the teachers to have time to complete the survey for each of the 21st CCLC participants they have in their class, time for your team to follow up with teachers or instructors that may not have submitted their surveys yet and might need a little extra reminders or nudging to do so, and also time for the staff to enter the results of the survey into 21DC. So all that to say is it is a time-intensive process, so make sure that you plan accordingly for all those steps. The next question is kind of what needs to be asked in terms of including in the survey for the teachers and or instructional staff. So as you can see on this slide, for those students that attend your programming for the academic year, at a minimum, you'll need to ask the following questions. Over the past school year, to what extent has the student demonstrated improvement in the following areas? Behaving well in class, participating in class activities, and turning in homework. These items represent various indicators of student engagement and learning. Thus, this next question must ask, based on your observation of the student's overall performance this past school year, did the student's level of engagement and learning improve? So the teacher or instructor staff member will then indicate yes, no, or the student's level of engagement and learning did not need to improve. So on this next slide, we'll see that the required items for the summer survey are slightly different. So for example, for the summer items, they're focused more on the students' engagement and learning within the summer programming, as opposed to during the regular school day. The questions that you'll need to include is, you'll have to have an indicator or an item on the survey regarding behaving well during summer is the engagement the item that you'll need to include in the summer is behaving well during summer programming, actively participating in summer program activities, and demonstrating academic progress during summer programming. So I will actually share a link at the end, which will have sample surveys, both the school year and the summer, that you can use when developing your own surveys. So the next question is, what is required as we look at the items that we listed below, what exactly do we need to provide within the survey? Here you'll see these blue circles on the screen. And for surveys that are going out to students, instructors in grades 1 through 5, the item circled in blue on this slide must appear as written. Again, this is only for grades 1 through 5 because the GEPRA federal reporting only requires data be submitted from states for grades 1 through 5 for the APR reporting. Thus, you must enter the results of the survey into 21DC for each program participant in grades 1 through 5. But it's important to note that GEPRA does not require states to submit instructional staff survey for kindergarten, middle, and high school students. Thus, there are no specific required survey items for them, but you'll still need to collect instructional staff survey data from those kindergartners, middle schoolers, and high school students. And I know this is confusing because after hearing this, most the most frequent question I get is, well, why is my program required to administer an instructional staff survey for kindergarten, middle school, and high school participants, but the engagement and learning data are not required to be entered into 21 DC? And this is a great question, but in the past years, the U.S. Department of Education required states to report student engagement for program participants grade K through 12. But it changed in 2021. But despite this change, in the federal law, NCDPI really sees that collecting teacher and instructor feedback regarding student engagement as a best practice. Therefore, administering the survey for students K through 12 is still required in North Carolina. Another question from grantees is, can my organization enter engagement data into 21 DC for all students, including those students in kindergarten, middle, and high school? And the answer is yes. So you can add instructional staff data into 21 DC for all the grades. And if that is helpful for your internal documentation and planning, that is great. Please do so. However, in terms of requirement and that must aspect, that is only, the survey data is only required to be entered into 21 DC for grades 1 through 5. So next is the how. How should students collect the required survey data? As we just mentioned, subgrantees are required to collect instructional staff surveys from all grade levels. They're also required to show, they're also supposed to contact the school day classroom instructor for every student in the program. So as you reach out to those school day classroom instructors, if, for example, you're working, if you're looking for the elementary school participants, you'll want to reach out to their primary classroom instructor. However, where it gets a little bit more confusing is when you're talking about middle and high school participants. For them, you'll want to identify one of their core content instructors and reach out to them in order to ask them to complete the survey. So if a school day instructor has multiple 21st century or 21st CCLC attendees in their classroom, they're going to be asked to complete a survey for each of those students. So if we go to the next screen, we'll also get the question. I also get the question a lot about how should I collect my data? Should I collect it either online or should I collect it via paper? And the answer is it's really up to you. It's up to your program for whichever one works best. You can also use a combination or mixture of both these methods. For example, if your program sends out electronic surveys for each of your students, but you only get a 40% response rate back from the teachers, you could follow up with those non-responding teachers using a paper survey. Think about a different method that you can use so that you can help increase that response rate and get it up to 100%. So again, whatever method works best for you is the one that you should use. The next question we get is, how do I report instructional staff survey data into 21 DC? And here are some screenshots from 21 DC. And the first one, basically, and this is going to be at the student level. So for each program attendee in grades 1 through 5, the following information is required for data entry. So do you have outcome data to report? So you would enter yes or no. If you enter yes, if you enter no, then you won't see that next screen on the bottom. But if you do answer yes, then the next, the bottom square does pop up and it says, do you have data to report? Yes. And then the next one is, do you have any, did the student demonstrate an improvement in instructor-teacher reported engagement and learning? And there you can say yes or no. And so that is what the screens will look like in 21 DC when you are entering your data for each of your students. And then you can also, here's a screenshot of 21 DC, which allows you to also track which students have a student survey in the system already. And it shows here it's missing required surveys. So is this individual missing a required survey? No. You can see over here, they actually have the outcome data and the improvement ratings listed in the system. So that kind of gives you an overview of what you'll see at the 21 DC level. So next, here are some resources that I'll put in the chat as well at the end. So you can see all this information in a single guidance report. I'll also provide a sample school year survey, as well as a sample summer survey that you can use to help build your own surveys or use as is. That is up to you. Again, we encourage you to develop surveys that collect the data that you need for your own program improvement efforts. So we encourage you to ask questions that help your own internal team make those decisions that are best for your program. So if you have any questions, I'll look in the chat next to see if there are any questions there and respond to those. But feel free to always reach out to me. My email address is on the screen if you have any questions about the processes or procedures or requirements regarding the surveys. However, if it's a 21 DC question, I really do encourage you to reach out to your program administrator so they can help you walk through those technical questions. So again, thanks for letting me take the time to go over that to make sure everyone's on the same page, and to hopefully this will act as a catalyst to ensure those that haven't thought about planning this process yet, they begin to do so and have the resources they need to set them up for success. So thanks again, and I'll respond to any questions in the chat as we go. And I'll turn it over to...
I'll take it from here.
Kendall. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kathleen, for all that important information and links to resources. As always, to our grantees, if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to us or Kathleen. We'll be happy to connect you either way. So with that said, Kathleen will still take a look at the chat and address any questions regarding her presentation, but we'll keep pushing this forward and keep rocking and rolling. We will turn it over to our friends at Intech for today's official professional development session.
Thank you, Kendall. And we are excited to be here with you all today and jumping into this conversation. So welcome. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about shifting partnerships from one more thing to do, or as Kathleen said, from compliance to a best practice, to a powerhouse behind program quality. And so we're going to talk about three pieces: needs, assets, and action. So partnerships aren't these random add-ons, but instead intentional supports tied to your outcomes. Partnerships matter in OST programs, in 21st century programs, because they can expand what you can do yourself with the funds you have, with the resources you have, with the human capacity that you have, and can offer STEM learning and mentoring, arts, career exposure, family supports, all of those things, without pulling away the focus from your outcomes. And so they are so important to what we do. As we get started today, I am going to encourage you to locate your summer learning program planner if you have not already. That will help us with our session today and give us the structure for all of this series that you all have been diving into and doing such good work around. And I'm going to encourage you to log in to the Knowledge Network. We will also use that for some of our engagement throughout today's session, so that when we get to the end of the day today, the end of this time together today anyway, that you have thoughts around who you need to reach out to, a clear way to ask them to engage in the work that you're already doing, and a process to maintain strong partnerships over time. And so we encourage you to visit the NTAC's website for all of the resources that we have available there, and engage in that process. For those of you who have not met me along the way, my name is Hillary Jones. I am one of the senior TA liaisons. Chaz sends his greetings to you all, but was not feeling well today. And with me, I have Yana.
Hey, Hillary, it's good to be with you, and it's good to be back with all of our attendees. You've seen me for a bunch of webinars, but I've been out for the last couple of months, so it's great to be back with you all and to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. So, as I said, today we're going to talk a little bit about the connection between assets, resources, and potential partnerships, how to ask those potential partners to be your partner, and then what it looks like to make those partnerships something that are deep, something that maintain their life cycle long term as part of the continuous improvement process. So, where do partnerships live in our planner? So grab that planner if you have not. Your partnership decisions are going to get recorded in a few specific areas of your planner. First, in tab 4 is the needs assessment. And we've already walked through that in this series, but this is where your needs come from. It's where you can review your school and student data, your student and family voice, and you can capture and have hopefully captured all of that information. Tab 12 is the logic model. Here is your theory of action, what you will do, who you will serve, and what outcomes you expect. And that's another place where we should be connecting our partnerships to this work. We'll talk a little bit more about that today. And then tab 3 is asset mapping. It's where you match these needs that you see in tab 4 to the outcomes you expect in tab 12. And you say, these are the community resources and potential partners for this work. And so, although you need 4 and 12, a lot of our time today will be capturing stuff that you can record in tab 3. And then the last piece is tab 13. If you already have fabulous partnerships that you feel great about, and we hope you have some, then you're going to plan how you will monitor and improve those partnerships over time and make them more effective in tab 13, the continuous improvement tab. So this is a little roadmap for today and where we're going to capture all of the information that we're going to talk about. Because remember, it's not just about quality planning, but it's about documenting that plan so that your state leaders can follow it, your teams can follow it, people who get involved in your work can follow it, so that all the information's together and in one place, and so that we have higher quality summer programming. So let's do a little mindset shifting as we jump into talking about partnerships as powerhouses today. I already said, much like surveying our youth, partnerships are not about compliance, they're about best practices. But it's so much more than that. You see, partnerships are most powerful when they are aligned to your theory of action, not added as standalone or extras. Let me tell you what I mean. If you know that your young people need support in building literacy skills, a partnership that allows you to provide tutoring support for those who have the greatest need is going to be more powerful than a partner who can come in and do a really cool one-off event, right? That's a standalone extra, and they're important too. And yet, finding a partner who can provide some kind of ongoing support that directly targets the outcomes that you're striving for are going to be what makes your partnership most effective, because it clearly supports your program goals, whether they're academic, whether they're enrichment, whether they're attendance and engagement, or whether they're family involvement. So we're going to do a quick litmus test. I want you to put in your brain right now one of your current partnerships. Just one. Pick it. And then what I want you to do is drop in the chat in one sentence or one phrase how the partnership supports your outcomes. So explain in one sentence or one phrase how the partnership supports your outcomes. We got the first one in, increasing student engagement through STEM engagement that reaches into families and the communities. It supports outcomes by broadening access to opportunities for students, right? Some of you are saying, we have the same goals and objectives as this partner organization. That's a great sign, right? That's a good sign that you have a strong partnership, right? It may provide that hands-on learning that you need, or it provides access to STEM education during the summer program. It can have a greater network of support. Perhaps that means that there's resources through that partnership that you can refer or connect families to and deepen those relationships, right? Partnerships should connect directly to your outcomes. If you're saying, hey, I'm not really sure how this partnership connects to my outcomes, that's okay. The partnership may still be positive, but it is less likely to be effective, sustainable, or easy to manage. Sometimes partnerships are a lot of work. And sometimes that work is worth the rub. So we've got an example here where that partnership provides specialized skill level instruction for students in dance, where you may not have somebody on your team who can provide that, while other partnerships may not provide that same type of resource. Powerhouse partnerships have three traits. One is purpose. Everyone can articulate the need that's being addressed, why that partnership is important. Second is that they have role clarity. That partner's contribution is specific, it's realistic, and it's scheduled. Third trait of a powerhouse partnership is feedback. You have a routine to learn and improve, not just, for example, a final reflection at the end of the summer, but something where you are working together to accomplish something. A lot of times the purpose is clear. You all jumped in and you could see the purpose to that. But at other times, we miss some of the other traits in these powerhouse partnerships. Maybe the role clarity, but the one that I think most programs miss is the feedback, this routine where you're learning and improving together. That's one that really deepens the effectiveness of our partnerships. Good partnerships also protect your staff capacity. Good partnerships take coordination. And so when our partnerships are well aligned and well structured, that coordination pays off. It's not just more work for your team. It is a partnership that really enriches all aspects of your program. But when our partnerships are misaligned or not quite right sized, it can consume a lot of time or energy, pulling away from the core of your work and what you need to invest in. So I want you to start thinking about a partnership that makes a difference. And we're going to do this in the Knowledge Network, but I want you to think about what is one partnership that made a meaningful difference in your program? And then what changed because of it? That change could be participation or engagement or academic confidence. It could be enrichment access or family turnout. It could be behavior. It could be something else. I'm not asking you to write a book, a couple of sentences, but I am going to show you where to write it. So if you go to the Knowledge Network in the professional learning portal, and you click on this little My Groups icon, you should be able to find the icon for the North Carolina Summer Learning Training Series. And as you scroll down, I want you to look for the topic that says a partnership that made a difference. When you locate that, I have those two questions I just asked you there. What is one partnership that made a meaningful difference in your program? And that what is something that changed because of it? Is it participation? Is it engagement? What is it that really happened for students or families? Not because of what they did right in that moment, but what change did you see that was longer term, that headed you towards your goals? I see a couple of comments of I'm logged in, but I'm not a member of any group. So if you come back to the Knowledge Network and you are looking for your group, you should be able to come to the community feed and find these posts. Nicole, if you're struggling to find them, you can also always drop your comments in the chat. But this post, a partnership that made a difference, should show up for you. So while some of you are thinking, getting into the Knowledge Network, etc., I'm gonna jump in with a couple of ideas and share them with you. So in North Carolina last summer, we know of a subgrantee that had a partnership with a shipbuilding company. And students were able to learn about the process of shipbuilding and all of the different skills that went into it. Everything from the art on the back of the ship and the artists that were involved in that work to the welding that was building the ship. And the program used this to build career skills in young people so that they could understand what are the career opportunities in their own community that is very much a shipbuilding community and where that's a priority for them. And so they were able to get exposure to those skills, build their understanding of those skills and their interest in that work. Another subgrantee had a community health worker partner, and that partner was able to help develop lessons that the staff could lead around health and nutrition. And so that created an opportunity for all of these young people to get regular education, even though the partner themselves wasn't available to provide the lessons. And wasn't able to create that opportunity. And so that was a really effective partnership because now that program not only has those lessons that they used last summer, but that's something now that they can use over and over and over again with the young people in their programs so that they can continue to invest in that. So that partnership will make long-term impact in that way. We're starting to see some answers come into the Knowledge Network. We have a partnership with the Global Innovation Center. And what really happened is that student engagement increased and there was positive student behavior as a result of that. I'm going to make some assumptions, Paula, but I'm guessing that the young people wanted to be doing that, right? They wanted to do that thing. And when we create opportunities for that, they can. We have a partnership here with Pender County 4-H, right, with your local 4-H, and they provided those nutrition classes for students with the healthy eating habits highlighted and lifted up, as well as snacks. That's a win, right? We have Literacy Together as another example, more consistent activity-based learning for the K-5 scholars, right? And they built through that confidence in problem-solving skills. They were able to better address challenges through that process. And so these are just a couple of examples, but the reason this is here in the Knowledge Network is so that you have some ideas of partnerships that might work with you or for you in your community, right? That you might want to reach out to your county's 4-H or your local mechanic or your local nature preserve or library or whoever it may be, to make sure that these partnerships are really effective, that they're addressing your students' needs, that they give real value to the work you're doing. When our teens, and I'm going to pick on Cassidy's example here, when our teens are getting exposure to careers and career pathways, we know that's a valuable piece of knowledge that they can use as they make future decisions. And so as we think about student and family needs, we should be thinking about what we're going to ask of our partners, what we really want folks to engage in with us. And so I'm going to continue to this next piece. So asset mapping is a process that begins with thinking about a clear understanding of what your young people need. You've already done this work. You've written it in your planner. And your planner supports this by asking you. So if you flip back to the fall, we talked about school level data, we talked about student level data, and we talked about student and family voice data. That matters because partnerships are not a substitute for program design, they're support to strengthen design. So when our needs are vague, such as we need more enrichment, our partner selection will be vague too, right? What will happen when our needs are vague is we go, hey, we just need something cool. And then we end up Googling something random and bring in a cool presenter so that our youth aren't bored, for example. When our needs are specific, for example, when we say our students need stronger reading stamina or families need accessible communication opportunities to engage, you can identify partners that match those specific needs. This is also where student and family voice data matters. Students can tell you what they're going to be interested in and what feels irrelevant. And families can tell you what barriers exist, whether they're transportation, whether there's work schedules, trust, childcare needs, or even just preferred communication channels. Those insights help you choose partners that are practical. Once you have clear needs, you can translate those into SMART goals, and that gives you a target partnership that you want to and can align with. It also makes improvement possible because you can check whether the partnership is helping move the goal forward and not just whether the partnership happened. So I want you to go back to your logic model, and I want you to take 2 minutes and revisit or jot down, if you need to, your top 3 needs for youth and families this summer. They should come through what you've already identified through your needs assessment, right? Through your logic. If you're a little bit stuck, if you're like, I didn't get that far, or I wrote down and I don't have that in front of me, think in a couple of categories. Think about academically. What do your young people need? Think about when it comes to engagement and attendance, what do your young people need? When it comes to enrichment access, what do your young people need? When it comes to family engagement, what do your families need? So I'm just going to give you a minute or two to get those needs in view. Get yourself thinking, remembering what you've written and done before, to find it in your logic model. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is drop one or two of them into the chat. I'm going to group them into a few themes for us so that we can use them as we think about our partner profiles. So once you've got those top needs in front of you, drop one or two, all three of them into the chat. So we can make some connections. So we need educational resources for families to use at home, especially our families learning English as a second language. Absolutely. And so now we can pursue something specific, right? We can find something specific, Dominic, instead of just going, I'm looking for something for families to do. I want to do something cool for family engagement, right? So what are some of your top needs for this year? Pam says, we need math resources. Our students are really behind. Okay, great. So now Pam knows where to head instead of just saying, I'm looking for some potential partners or I'm looking for some potential resources, right? Tyrone says, I need literacy content, and a couple of you need reading content so that your students can gain literacy skills. And this is something that's not just coming from your program, but your school partners are saying that, parents are saying that. It sounds like all of the data is aligning there, right? You're crystal clear. And so now you don't have to go out running around and saying, listen, I need a really cool field trip for a partner, or I need somebody who's going to come in and do, fitness programming. You know that you need these literacy resources for your youth, for your families, right? That's where you're going to pursue those partnerships, especially because for many of you, you don't have that teacher staff in your program, or not as many of them as you'd like, who have the skills and talents to build that in your young people. These are the places where we need to look for our partners, not the extras. We want to be so intentional because it can be really tempting to choose partners that sound really exciting, but don't directly support your priority needs. And so it's important to just put those in front of you as you're saying, this is what's most important. Here are my top 2, 3 needs, and start thinking about those partners. So keep those top 3 needs in your brain, right? Keep them at hand. And it's not just math, it's not just literacy, right? I see a couple of comments around here around mental health, connected to family engagement, right? All of is keeping them at top of mind as we go into this next step, okay? So one of the things that we need to do as we're planning for summer is do what we call asset mapping. And this is an intentionally broad approach, but it helps us move beyond the idea that partners are only nonprofit organizations, they're only community agencies. If you have your planner open and you look at tab 3, you'll see that assets are organized into 4 categories. These 4 categories are community resources, right? These are the people that might help with what Lorianne says about like helping people keep the lights on and food on their table, right? Those can be partners. They can be these local institutions, your local schools, but also your local, if you have a local community college or university, right? Your local governmental institutions, places like that. 3 is local businesses. And then 4 is individuals. We need to remember that these folks can be significant partners too. This is also important to think kind of in these 4 buckets because your communities vary so much. As a formal youth serving nonprofit may be nearby that can help support it, or you may be that nonprofit, and others may be a library or a parks and recreation department. It could be the city government. It could be a local employer. It could be a community college program or a faith-based or civic organization. It could be a skilled individual who's willing to mentor your young people and invest in them. And so asset mapping is a way to help you see what's already present in your community and to think about that first. So we have a resource called the Community Asset Map that you can use to get started thinking about these resources. I'm going to name each of these categories one at a time. As I do, I want you to drop in the chat an example or 2 of a local community asset which fits that category. It can be one that you already have. It can be one that you're aware of. I just want to get you thinking of what's out there. So drop into the chat a community resource you're aware of. Local library is a great example. Libraries are huge resources. Local food banks, parks, outdoor spaces, a community navigator that works from your local library. Yeah, Parks and Rec, absolutely. Churches. Sometimes we forget how much of a resource our local libraries are, and it keeps coming up here and coming up here and coming up here. And I will say to you, if you have not been to your local library recently and talked to your local librarian, please do. Please just go in the door and say, hey, I run this 21st Century Community Learning Center, and I'm just trying to see if there's any resources that I can share with my families. You will be shocked about what they come up with. And then we're getting creative, right? The art museums, the local institutions of higher ed, so that can be a community college. If you're in a city, a bigger university, etc. Don't forget about the extension agencies, absolutely. Yeah, and other local nonprofits. Okay, I'm going to the next category. And some of these may overlap between the two. We don't have to have these perfectly aligned categories, but now think about some local institutions. What are some local institutions that you have in your community? We got a community college, we have a hospital. Yes, city offices. Jesse says job shadowing, absolutely. And the fire department and the police and the bank and the post office. Absolutely. Your chamber of commerce. Yep, a sheriff's department if you have them. Those are all phenomenal examples of local institutions. Now let's go to businesses. Who do you have as a local business in your community? Pam says they've got a factory. Absolutely. Local farms. We got some big chains like an Amazon, but there's also these family-owned restaurants. Boys and Girls Club of America. In my community, pharmacies, the local grocery store, not the big chain. If you have a little local store, you know, with their 4 or 5 aisles. But then don't forget the big corporations like a Walmart, a local bookstore. That's a win. I have a local pizza guy that anytime you are doing anything regarding reading and young people, he will get involved. He will fund it. He will buy pizzas. We have many years when I was running programs, he would offer that a pizza party for the group that read the most books, or he would offer something like that. All of those local businesses, right, are want and have ways to be involved in your community if you let them. What about individuals? Right? And this is a place where you don't have to name a specific person, but be thinking about who are the specific people in your community. This is exactly it. An advisory board member who does woodworking, right? It could be grandparents. It could be the local banker, insurance agent, welder, mayor. It could be the local personality on your radio, on the local radio show, right? It could be somebody who runs a farm in your community. All of these people have the potential to be part of these assets in our community and in our space. Your goal in doing an activity like this is not to build this enormous list. Hopefully, in doing something like this, you've got some ideas spinning now of people in your network, in your spaces, where you say, these people might be able to help me address my top needs. And so next we're going to do a little bit of a quick inventory activity, a little bit of asset bingo, for example, to look at the connection between these needs and gaps. So here's what we're going to do. This is also about inventory. So as I name a category, I want you to share in the chat one asset that you don't currently have. So you're going to say, I don't currently work with this person. They're not currently investing in my program in any way, but that you're aware of in your community. Because the next step is to make the connection between these potential assets and our needs. And so our goal is to come up with a whole bunch of new ideas by brainstorming together. So what's a community resource that you have, but aware of in your community? So that one's real general. Community resource that you don't currently have, but you're aware of in your community. Jesse's got the local arts council. The pharmacy, that's great. Melissa, you're aware of a partnership that maybe didn't sustain itself long-term, but you would like to get back connected with. We're gonna talk about those in a little while. Pam's gonna walk into the library. I can see it coming. Yeah, your local rec center. If you've got a local rec center, you know, live in real rural towns and may not have those. Your local museum, right? How about an institution? What's one institution that you say, I don't currently have a partnership there, but I'm aware that they exist in my community? Haven't made that connection yet, but they're there. Yeah, your local hospital. Community college. Jesse's got her eye on the digital design department. There's some arts things happening there. Yeah, your local bank, especially the small branches of local banks and regional banks, are a great resource. Renee, I don't know who it was earlier that was saying like they wanted to build math skills. They know their students need that. Diving into a conversation with a bank to help make that connection is a great way to start that. Dr. Carolyn says solar farms. Earlier when we were talking about needs, several of you said things related to STEM. What a way to help make that connection. How about a business? What businesses do you know exist in your community, but you don't currently have a partnership with? The gas company. That's great. Who else? The Sunbeam Factory. The hardware store. Absolutely. Toyota. Your local gym. So as you start thinking about these ideas, if you're somebody who's stuck, you're like, I don't have this in my community, I can't come up with this. This is an activity you could go back with your team and do. Do this brainstorming, right? Start with what are some things that fit into these 4 categories, and then go back and say, okay, we don't have these partnerships in these different categories. What's missing? This is something you can engage your program planning team in, right? To get these ideas. So if you're somebody who's like, I'm stuck, I don't have an answer for this, do that. Okay. So now I want you to go just a little bit deeper. I want you to think about the gaps I asked you to identify earlier and hold on to. And then the assets that you just brainstormed that you said, I don't have these. And I want you to say, we have this need. We should pursue this type of partner. I want you to make a connection between your need and your type of partner. And so I want you to say, I need STEM programming. I could connect with whoever it is, whether it's, you know, the local hardware store, the gas company. Some of you said like, we need health activities, right? Maybe you're connected with your local health department or your local gym. And if you're somebody who says, I have a need, but I can't figure out who or what in my community might help me with this, this is your spot where you can unmute and say, hey, I've got an example, and let's see if this group can help me come up with an idea of something that's in my community that might help. And I say that because I know there's people sitting on this call who are saying, but I'm really rural and we don't have anything. Ashley's got these teachers in the county who are willing to come out and do activities. That's a great existing partnership. Yeah, you've got Mad Science, they're coming out monthly. Now, what other needs do your young people have that you say, here's something that I need to find a partnership around? We've got needs for volunteers to help struggling readers. Looking to get connected to specific partners, right? Getting input from the juvenile court counselors, for example. Johnson can see a connection for volunteers between those struggling readers. This is how I want you to be thinking about your partnerships, right? We have this need. Let me see who we can find to help us meet that need, right? be intentional about finding this information so that understanding your community will help you your program goals and outcomes. So we've talked a lot about the needs of our young people in this, but there's been a few places where we've lifted up some family voice into this conversation. And I want us to do a little bit more of that. And so I want you to begin by spending some time thinking about families. We don't want to overlook them as assets that are immediately in front of us. The families we serve are not just our clients, they are integral parts of our OST, of our 21st C community. And their voice needs to be incorporated into your mapping. And so as you build your asset map, ask yourself, what skills do your families have that could have contributed to your program needs, to a need that you've identified? What are those spaces, right? Sometimes you may find that you've got family members who've got unique talents that they can bring to the work that you're doing. That you have parents, for example, in my programs, that I had parents who were very connected in the community with other parents, and they would help with the recruitment. I knew that if I handed those parents going into summer a stack of flyers and registration forms, that they would have them all disseminated for me in a heartbeat because of their role in the community and their job. I had a mom who, she was a dental hygienist, and she would come every year and do something for our young people around dental hygiene as part of a larger health and wellness series that we did with our young people. And she just was one small piece in this bigger picture, but she was a part of that. I had families who were regularly involved in helping plan and prepare for community events where they said, hey, let us help. We'll come help set up. We'll help clean up. We'll be involved, right? And that allowed a reduced load on my staff and my team so that they might not have to come so early or stay so late when they're already working hard. And then my families feel ownership over what's happening in the program. And so then you want to be thinking about what connections do your families have? Can they connect you with other individuals or organizations in your community to address real needs? So, for example, are they well connected with the local pharmacy? I keep picking on the pharmacy, but like, are they connected with the local pharmacy and the person who owns it? And can they help make that become a resource for you? Or do they work at the local grocery store? And so then they're able to help snacks or food for your program for a special event. And then the last piece is, what other community organizations are supporting your families, and how can you partner with those organizations to add support? An example of this is, in my community, we have a social service agency that does a lot of work with families. And so in my programs, we built a really strong partnership where we would take their referrals of families and prioritize them getting seats in our program because the families that they were working with really needed a safe place for their child to get academic support after school. And we would refer families who we became aware of who might need some extra support, in a really wide variety of areas. Like they had rental assistance and legal services, food services, all kinds of supports as part of this social service agency. And so we became partners back and forth in regular communication around that. What a resource you can become to your families if you know what the resources are in your community, right? It's the heart of what 21st century community learning centers are supposed to be. They're supposed to be this place and resource for learning and growth. And so a great kind of low pressure way to do this is gather information about the community resources that are out there and make them accessible to your families, right? It's um, putting that information at the sign in or sign out desk. It's about putting some chart paper up on the wall and asking your families who they're connected with, whether it's community, local institutions, businesses, individuals, that you might encourage parents to both peruse the resources that are already there and add to the list of who they're connected with that you should be reaching out to as they sign out for the day and do pick up, right? Activities like this allow you to discover unknown resources to you that are available in the community. And it helps parents not feel put on the spot if you're saying to them, hey, take a resource that you need, but share a resource that you have. It's not just saying, like, here's all these things we can pour into you. And now what can we take back out of that? So I am going to pass it over to Yana to talk a little bit about turning needs into partner profiles.
Thanks, Hillary. And I am so happy to talk about this importance because we are really focusing on our priorities. And we really want to connect what our needs are and really identify what are those most important aspects of our program. And so to identify that priority need, what is most important for our program, there are three questions that you can kind of consider to identify that. And the first one is, what asset type fits best? So think back to those four categories that we explored with Hillary a couple of slides ago: community resources, local institutions, local businesses, and individuals. Which of those types of partners would fit that need best? What is going to be the best fit for supporting your program to address that student and community need? Second, what role do you want your partner to play? And this is somewhere that you should be as specific as possible, because when we take the next step of actually reaching out to our partners, making asks, we want to really tell them what our goal is, what we want them to contribute. They are going to be much more likely to say yes and to become part of your program and addressing that need if they know what you're actually looking for. Supporting enrichment is really vague, and asking a partner to support enrichment, they might not really know what you need. In contrast, if you ask them, we would like you to lead a weekly STEM lab for grades 4 to 5, that's an actionable request. That is something where the partner knows what you want, and then they can make that decision if that is something that they are able to provide. Again, that specificity is going to give your potential partner information that helps them make an informed decision. And you also want to decide ahead of time, what would success look like? Because we talk so much about the continuous improvement process. And to really do that effectively from the very beginning, we need to know what we're trying to achieve. We can't decide if we're successful if we don't know what we're trying to achieve in the end. That success might look like higher student participation. It might look like student engagement. You give kids those surveys and ask, did you enjoy this program? It could mean stronger work products or improved academic performance, improved school day importance, increased family attendance or turnout at family events. So really decide, how are we going to know if this partnership has been a success? And if you can define that partnership role and the measures of success, we're going to be ready to engage in continuous improvement. And for you, from that very beginning, you're going to be able to identify the right partner for your program. So we have already spent some time on the Knowledge Network. A lot of you have already done a great job of making that connection and popping in there. But we would love for you to head back into that Knowledge Network to identify these questions for your priority needs. You've thought about, well, this is the most important need for my program. Now we're asking you to think about and share what asset type do you think would be most useful for addressing this need? What role do you want a partner to play? Be as specific as possible. We want them to host an event. We want them to contribute financially. We want them to host a booth at a family event, any of those kinds of things. What are you actually asking them to do? And define what would success look like. So you can share those answers in the Knowledge Network. And if you're not comfortable, if you would prefer, you're welcome to share your answer in the chat box and we can read those out. So I'll give you a couple of seconds or a minute or two to think and share. And so be as specific as possible. Who would that partner be? What are you asking them to do? Again, you want that request to be actionable. And what will success look like for that relationship? So Krista shares that she would be asking for a guest speaker for students and or lessons. So Krista, I have a follow-up question for you of what topic are you asking this partner to present on? Who is this partner? And what does success look like? Are you hoping that'll increase engagement? Are you hoping that they will teach students content that you are that you don't have that expertise of internally? Are you hoping that it will increase family participation in events? So we'd love to hear from you, kind of that follow-up question of what will success look like and what is that partner going to be doing? We want to be as specific as possible because that is what allows us to then engage in continuous improvement, decide was this partnership actually successful? And like I mentioned, you can pop your answers into that Knowledge Network. And if you prefer, you're welcome to pop it into the chat box and we'll share them out as well. So we've got that a comment. Oops. We've got a comment from Krista following up on some of those questions I asked of your partnership is with Healthy Choices from the health department. And you're interested in asking them to build an activity with students from a local hardware store. You want them to engage and teach students. You want them to see and experience different things that they might not encounter in school or their community. Great, but and what will success look like? Is it a number of students participating? Is it are you going to do a feedback form for students asking them did they enjoy the activity? What did they learn? Those are all things to consider. We've got a comment from Jesse that you're going to ask an individual or institution to lead an esports league that focuses on digital literacy and safety. And success would look like 2 to 3 9-week cohorts at max registration. So Jesse's measure of success will be that level of participation. We see that enthusiasm. A lot of kids want to show up and a lot of kids participate for that 2 to 3 week cohort. Thank you for sharing. So we hear from Pam that at their program, they would like to bring in a financial advisor to share about budgeting. This has been a big family need. That's great to hear. And what are you hoping in terms of the success? What will success look like? Is it the number of attendees? Will it be a feedback form from families? Again, you want to think about how are we going to know that the program we offered or the partnership we are engaging in is really successful. Here we've got one from Brittany. We want the Read and Feed program to lead activities for our students in grades K to 5. Read and Feed provides snacks and books for students to take home. Success would look like having Read and Feed come out to our program 2 times in the summer, as well as our family engagement nights. So Brittany is measuring success by the fact that this potential partner, shows up as frequently as that request is coming in. Thank you for sharing. Let's look at 1 or 2 more. Okay. I'll share one more before we move on to the next one. And thank you all for participating and for sharing such detailed answers. We really appreciate that. And even as we're going to reach the end of our session, this isn't it isn't a time where the conversation has to end. We hope you will continue using the Knowledge Network to share those ideas and for other sites to learn about those, think about those potential partners, and perhaps adopt those partnerships for their own. Ashby is going to reach out to a local nonprofit partner focused on building community around learning. Students will have building teams working towards a common project that has to do with simulating water from the river into a communal bucket. So that sounds like thinking about the environment. It's going to be an opportunity to think about kind of that connection to their community, and it's an opportunity to develop critical thinking. And it's a great opportunity to engage families as well. And the measures of success will be looking at participation levels and engagement success of groups based on a rubric surveys to teachers. So it sounds like a measure is going to be how many students are participating, a feedback form, how many students really enjoyed it, families got a lot out of it, and also rubrics. So for that final project, is that final project successful? Are they achieving what they set out to do? So thank you everyone for sharing. Again, please do continue to share in the chat box and in that Knowledge Network. It's an opportunity to share your own innovations and to connect and hear about what others are doing. So with that in mind, you have all shared some of those ideas about your partners. But we want to think about, as you're looking for those and starting to reach out to the partners, we want to make sure that we are reaching out to high quality partners that are going to help us and help our programs be as successful as possible. And so with that in mind, we want to look at what are the characteristics of a really high quality partner. Now, first of all, the thing to know is that our high quality partners are those whose missions align with our own. So we want to look for partners that have a shared mission, because that will really help them invest and care about our programs. We want to have that connection, and so we can always have those meaningful and continue to build those meaningful connections. We also want to select partners where there's going to be a mutual benefit. In other words, we get something out of that partnership, they get something out of that partnership. again, we're looking to build these kinds of partners where everybody is invested, everybody is getting something out of it. And that really will be helpful and possible to connect and achieve when we're all benefiting from it. Next, we want to make sure that we are selecting partners that have the capacity to engage meaningfully. Many of our partners are busy, they have their own businesses, they have their own work. We want to select partners. We want to select partners that actually have the capacity to support us. And that means having those conversations with them to make sure that we are spending or we are giving those partners opportunities and making sure we're having those detailed conversations to make sure that everybody has the time and the capacity to have those. Are they going to be a reliable partner? Do they have the appropriate staff to be part of it? Can they be available for your schedule? And then you want to have a really clear understanding of how they are going to contribute to your outcomes. So how are you going to make sure that they have a role and they have an opportunity to be part of that meaningful outcome? And so having that clear contribution will help us to make sure that everybody has that active role and we are reaching those desired outcomes together. Oopsie, went too far. And so as you're thinking about that partnership pipeline, you're thinking about selecting partners that can have a meaningful contribution and do have that capacity to be part of your program. We want to use the partnership team planner, again, thinking about your planner for your program. Under tab 2, we have that program team planner. The key thing to consider is whether you can answer all this information. Again, you want to make sure that you are able to serve your program and your partners, and those partners are going to have those meaningful contributions. So you want to make sure you have a contact name in your partnership. So there's always going to be those ongoing conversations. You have recorded and thought through what is the purpose of the partnership. What is your goal? Again, thinking about how they're going to make that meaningful contribution. And make sure that we are ready to have those meaningful conversations and meaningful partnerships in the long term. So we've really thought about those important partners and thought about what it looks like to have a successful partner. Now we get to, in some ways, the most challenging part, and that is making the ask. Reaching out to that potential partner and articulating for them what you are hoping to achieve and what you want from them. And you want to do that in a way that is compelling and attractive so they will feel interested and invested in your program and in that partnership. And so to do that, we have a fun kind of memory trick, and that is to use Connect. Now for Connect, the steps you want to make sure you are able to answer before you make that ask is you want to clarify the need. So can you tell them why you need them? This is why this is important. Then you want to outline the opportunity. Describe as completely and concretely as possible what you're asking them to do, how often, which students, for how long. Be as specific as possible with what you're actually asking for. You want to name the mutual benefit. Express to them, this is how our program will benefit, and this is how your organization, your company, your nonprofit, you as an individual will benefit from this as well. Then you want to be able to navigate those logistics. Think about and be able to articulate the planning process, how you're going to check in about the success of the partnership, whether there needs to be specific steps before you formalize the partnerships, and really think about kind of any of the logistics that might serve as a stumbling block. The more you think about, the clearer it is, the easier and more smoothly your partnership will play out over the long term. You also want to express enthusiasm. You want your partners to know that you're excited, that this matters to them, this is meaningful. And really just show we care about this, we care about our opportunity to work together. That really shows that enthusiasm and will hopefully be reciprocated on that potential partner's side. Then you want to confirm next steps, create and put into place a concrete timeline and a concrete progression of what needs to happen next. And then tie theory into action. Explain how the partner's role, expertise fits into our program goals and outcomes, and be ready to put that into place and put that into action. And the reason Connect is so important is because it really prevents two common pitfalls that can really negatively affect our programs. And that is having a vague request that a partner can't respond to, asking them, we'd love for you to support our arts program. That doesn't give your potential partner an action step. And so being vague you can end up in kind of a little bit of email or phone tag where they care and they're interested, but they don't actually know what they want to do. And maybe you don't know what you want them to do either. And so you never take those next steps to actually putting it into place. And the other piece really connecting to that is having unclear expectations. So even if we said we are asking you to lead an activity, if you're not clear on how many students you expect to participate, how long you want that to be in place, what success will look like, if you're not having that clarity, those partnerships can collapse over time because you're not having that mutual support for each other. And what we would love for you to do is to craft your own pitch, a short pitch, using Connect. And this should be a 30-second pitch. It's really short. And thinking about those Connect pieces, the need and who you serve, the opportunity, what you're asking for, how it's a mutual benefit, and what are the next steps. We're going to ask you to craft that. You can either pop it into the chat box or back into the Knowledge Network on our website. And so we would love for you to share with us how you're going to put this, potential partnership into place. And if you're not sure yet, that's okay. I'd love to share an example with you that will help you really think about and see what this might look like. And then I'll give you some time to write your own. So here's an example. This summer, our program is focused on providing a high quality learning opportunity focused on high quality arts. We're inviting you to partner with us to lead an arts program through the summer. And we think that this aligns with your work because your organization is focused on bringing arts to the public. And we think that'll be a really meaningful way for your program to connect with our community, to connect with our students, and connect with the families that we serve. Could we schedule a 20-minute call next week to explore whether a partnership could be a mutual fit? And so this is an example where I clarified that it's really important for us to provide high quality opportunities relating to art. We are asking them to fill the need by leading art activities. And we talked about how this site, or this organization, excuse me, focuses on providing art and connecting art to the community. And so our organization would be a good fit to partner for them. And so again, you can share your answers in the chat box, or you can share them in our knowledge network. This is a great opportunity, and I hope you will all share with each other so that you can learn, copy good ideas, bring them to your own programs. Okay, we've got, oh,
I was going to say there's a really good one in the chat that I added to the Knowledge Network because it's a great example for folks.
yep. Hello, this is X. We host a number of your students at our after school program. I think they would love to see you come by at some point. Perhaps you can share your story and how you came to be a principal. I think that would tie very well with our junior achievement lesson that ties to careers in the community. Is this something that you might find interesting? So thank you for sharing that. We are connecting to Mrs. X, saying that this is already a connection you have to our organization. You already have some of your students. We think that this is really going to be inspiring for our students to tie careers into the community. So showing Mrs. X how this would be of benefit, and giving a specific ask. We would love for you to come and share your story. The next step might be, if this is something you're interested in, we would love to schedule a call to talk about this potential partnership or this potential visit. So you can think more about how are we actually going to put this into place. So thank you, Poppy, for making that great suggestion. And again, you can pop yours into the chat box or into the knowledge network. Either way, we will see those answers. So you are recording your own idea, your own quick ask to reach out to this potential partner. As you can see on our knowledge network, Hillary has created a template that you can follow. It doesn't have to be word for word. You can think about what might be a better fit for your site and for your program.
Yeah, and Yana, the example from Poppy is a great one if you've got that somebody right there who they might have a little time to talk to you. But you might have somebody who you're walking into their business, for example, on a work day, and they may not have planned to have a sit-down conversation with someone from the 21st CCLC program in their community. And so, like, asking for that time is just one strategy to kind of think about that as you work through that process and determine how to approach it. So there's lots of different ways.
Oh, so Maurice shares the title of our summer program is 3 Steps Ahead. And we're looking for organizations that understand how to take steps and and so we're reaching out to the local Army Reserve unit. We'd love to have some of your soldiers to come out to work with our students and show them how to take physical steps and mental steps to succeed. So make that connection to a potential military career of how students can prepare for that. So that's giving students that connection to potential careers that's going to be of benefit to the Army Reserve unit, because those could potentially be participants or people who sign up in the future. And so having that connection, that will certainly be to the benefit of both your organization and that local Army Reserve. So thank you for sharing. And again, we would love for you to continue to sharing your ideas in the chat box, even after this session ends, so that you can learn from each other and share your great ideas with the whole group. So thank you everyone for sharing those ideas. And so once we have really made that ask, then we are ready to put these partnerships into play. And to make our partnerships operational, we have to define them. So really start with the scope. Make sure that it's clear what you're asking the partner to do, what you're not asking the partner to do, when they'll be on site, how often, what they should bring, what you are going to provide, who is going to supervise, all of those pieces. These are the scope and responsibilities that should be defined from the get-go. You need to confirm the schedule, the space, the process for your program. Again, sometimes things change between the planning and the actual putting into place. So you want to confirm that everybody is ready, both on your side and the partner side. You have to align staffing and budget. Who's actually going to be paying for this? You might be asking the partner to bring their own materials, donate their time, or you might have to pay for the materials, pay for certain resources from your own budget. Have you defined that from the beginning? Is there actually space in your budget? And finally, set communication routines. Be really clear on how we're going to keep in touch, how often we're going to check in. Make sure that that plan is in place, because we want to have as clear communication as possible from the very beginning to minimize any confusion in the future. And we talk about continuous improvement all the time, and I'm going to talk about it so much more. We can continue to deepen and put into place our partnerships through continuous improvement. If this is the first year of your partnership, you have already done that planning for the first time. You have put it into place again the first time. Now it's time to review what went well in your partnership, what are areas for growth, and then you can make adjustments. We want to continue this partnership, but next year we are going to change how long we're going to collaborate, who's paying for things, how many students are going to be engaged, all of those pieces. And so the next year or the next period that you're putting this, you're enacting this partnership, you can always improve and develop an even more high quality partnership, even more high quality implementation. And one way to do that is to do a health check. So a partnership health check is a quick way to diagnose the relationship. It's not about blaming partners or staff. It's about seeing clearly what is going well, what are some potential areas that need to be addressed. So you're going to be thinking about your partnerships, and we want you to assess across these 6 dimensions. There's some questions that we would love for you to ask and to think about. First, What are we trying to accomplish? Are we really clear with our partner what we want to accomplish? Are we agreed on this? Because sometimes that can change. We might not be on the same page. And if we're not on the same page, this is something to check in on and maybe make some changes if we have to. Are we both benefiting? So are we still showing that mutual benefit? Do we have that clear communication? Are we doing a good job of having that two-way communication? Everybody is on the same page. Are we actually achieving that intended benefit? So are our students, are our families benefiting from this program? And how do we know? Are we using surveys? Are we using rubrics to measure activities? Do we need to make adjustments to this partnership? And how are our families visible, valued, and involved? So in other words, are we really doing what we set out to do of having partnerships that are serving our students and our families properly and responding to those needs and wants that they express? So we would love for you to, using one of your current partnerships, assess the health of that partnership. Again, you can pop it into the chat box if you prefer, or you can head to our knowledge network to answer these 6 questions. Let us know whatever partnership you're choosing to kind of think about and focus on. How do you know that you're successful? Or how do you know that you need to make some changes in the future?
And that's the point, right, Yana? Not to say, hey, I've got this fabulous partnership, but instead to say, oh, here's a partnership that I could do a little workaround and make it worth so much more to me and to my young people.
So it sounds like Poppy is already ahead of the game. Poppy has shared we have an internal continuous improvement process that we implement and review weekly, so we don't have to wait months or a year before making changes. So Poppy is really doing this incredibly regularly. We might not all have the capacity to do that as regularly, and that's okay. But certainly, we know that continuous improvement is really important. And so whether you're doing those kinds of check-ins weekly or monthly, really taking the time to check in and make revisions. And sometimes those might be partnerships you review once a year. It's going to depend on the depth of that partnership, how much time you spend together, how much you're able to work together. So thank you, Poppy, for sharing. I think I stopped sharing the screen for a second. There we go. Poppy shares, I can share how we do this with staff, parents, and students. Absolutely do share that. I think that's going to be really useful information about how you're already ahead of the curve.
Can I get off mute and talk about it, or
Please
did you want
do.
me to? Okay.
Absolutely.
So good morning. So I used to be an Agile coach, so continuous improvement is a very big deal for us. So what we do, the kids don't realize they're doing this, but at the end of the week, we have a big poster, a big sheet of paper we put up with a happy face and a sad face, and we leave pencils like taped to the wall, and we have the kids fill in what they loved about the week and what they didn't like so much. And they're very brutally honest. And if we don't put that up there, they're always asking, where is the sheet? And then we use that same process with our staff so they can give us their insights on what worked, what didn't work, so we can very quickly at the end of the week make decisions on, did a choice we make that, we made last week to implement this week, did that work? Did the kids enjoy it? Did we enjoy it? Etc.
Oh, fantastic. I love that idea. So
very simple,
making
happy
kids
face, sad face.
and that is a great way to get that feedback And also, it doesn't sound like it's a huge lift for you or for staff. It's a really a kind of quick way to do that check-in. So Poppy, thank you so much for sharing those great ideas.
Sure.
And then as we're reaching, I do want to check in of what happens if you feel like the partnership is not heading in the right direction. You've done that happy face, sad face, and it sounds like there's a lot more sad faces than you want to see. We can always take the time to repair, retire, or refocus, and we can choose which of those is going to be right for each individual partnerships. Each individual partnership, excuse me. So repair, if the partnership has fallen apart, if we set a schedule of involvement and we keep on having to cancel something like that, we might be able to repair that. Really come up with a way that we can continue to work together, even if it doesn't quite match what we set out to do from the very beginning. Sometimes partnerships don't work out, and sometimes you do have to retire a partnership. And that's okay. We know that that is something that can happen. And we have to be prepared to do that sometimes. And sometimes we refocus. So think about, well, we want to continue this partnership, but maybe not quite how we've been doing it up to now. And so that is an opportunity to shift how you're engaging and how you're practicing that partnership. It might not be exactly what you've done up to now. So today, what we have really talked about is mapping our needs to our assets to our partner targets. So making sure that we are selecting partners that really fit the needs that we have identified that we know exist within our programs. Then you all did a great job crafting your connect pitches of making that ask to a potential partner to really express to them why that partnership is important, how they will benefit from that partnership, what you are hoping to achieve, what you're asking from them. So you used the connect method to make those asks. And then we talked a little bit about that continuous improvement process of completing the health check. And it could be something like what Poppy is doing on that weekly basis of smiley face, sad faces. It could be a more formal continuous improvement process once a year, or really anything, any range between those of how often you're checking in, how often you're seeing, are we actually achieving what we set out to achieve? So thank you everyone for answering those. And like we've said before, please continue sharing your ideas in the Knowledge Network so the other members of our group can continue to benefit and learn from each other. So thank you all for sharing those. As always, you can continue the learning on our website. On our learning management system, we've got lots of courses available with your free account, and you can encourage your staff to complete these as well. We have done a lot of work in the Knowledge Network, so we know you know how to use it and how to check into it. So that is something that we can hope you will continue using both during these sessions and to continue that conversation. And you can always reach out to us at 21stcclcntac.org. And you can email us at info@21stcclcntac.org. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to your state leadership for inviting us to be here. We're excited to see you again next month and to continue these great conversations. So thank you to your leadership, and we will leave it here. If you could take just a minute to fill out our feedback form, part of continuous improvement, letting us know how we did, what you're interested in. We would really appreciate just a minute of your time. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for sharing in the chat box. And thank you to your state leaders. We'll turn it over to you if you have anything in closing to share.
Thank you to our partners at Intact. We do appreciate you being with us today. And as always, I appreciate the grantees being so interactive with you guys. Your participation is key to make these sessions a success. And so we thank all of our subgrantees for being active participants today. And again, thank you, Intact, for your partnership. We value that, and we look forward to next month's PD session. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Ashton, if you want to go ahead and stop the recording, we can go ahead and stop it at this time and we'll go ahead and end the meeting. Thank you all.
Sorry, Susan, did you say something to me? I'm sorry.
Yes, you can go ahead and stop recording.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And you can go ahead and end the meeting when you're ready.